Hi.
Hi. I had a meeting with John from Hall Street. It's given Stewien. He said he booked a room.
He did indeed, yeah. I'll just let him know you're here.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, should I come this way?
Yes.
Thank you. Hi. Lovely, nice to meet you. Hi, Jim.
Hi.
Oh, that's right. I was
Yeah,
supposed
you
to
don't
be
to be
in the
used to.
corner. No, I was supposed to be behind you.
First, nice to put faces to
Yes.
names.
Nice,
after
Yes.
all the
yeah.
emails and
Talking.
calls. I suppose the purpose, as I see it, for this meeting today is to, I suppose, try to get to the bottom of, whether we can add any value, and maybe to talk a little bit about what our service is, but also the steps you've taken already.
Yes.
I think I've tried to be as clear as I can
Yes.
within the emails that I am.
Yes.
The service that I work for is tiny. It's
Okay.
a very limited service, and it's specific to people with disabilities who cannot advocate for themselves.
Yes.
Okay, so where somebody looks to make contact with us and they're saying, they have a rights-based issue and they have a disability
Yes.
as a result
Yes.
of whatever,
Yes.
our first port of call is to sort of see, well, can this person link in with mainstream services, or do they need a representative advocacy? Okay.
Yes.
My understanding from your emails, and I suppose there's a huge amount going on, certainly, but my understanding is that you have made lots of attempts to link in with mainstream
Correct.
services,
Correct.
but they haven't led to the outcome that you wanted.
Correct. Correct.
And
That is the reason first of all, I made contact with, I was brought here
okay,
from the government of Ireland.
okay.
All right. Under trade and agreement.
Do you mind if I take a couple of
Yes,
notes?
no,
I won't
you
be-
No.
yeah.
Under trade and agreement.
Yeah.
In 2004,
Mhm.
I became aware of a doctor in the HSE, Dr. Declan O'Keefe,
Okay.
that he was extorting money for life. He was busy taking my life.
Right.
I notified Minister Bertie O'Hearn. I notified Mary Harney from the HSE, and I notified the Guard Immigrations requesting assistance
Okay.
for the safety of my life.
Right.
I got then already, they gave me the runaround from one department. I must go to this department, I must go to that department. We went through all of those departments.
Okay.
In 2007, people secretly flew me out of Ireland to Britain to save my own life.
Okay.
In Britain, the doctors there asked me the question. They said, you must, well, first of all, you've got a broken neck and a broken back. That's the first thing we've got to fix.
So I'm going to pause you there. Okay?
Yes.
Okay. So, I suppose the disability that you've acquired essentially is from a breakage, broken neck, broken back. Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
And-
and
And this doctor that you referenced, he was supposed to be treating you.
yes,
Okay.
what he did was
Okay.
he began using illegal lethal dosages of OxyContin, Oxynorm, Lyrica,
Okay.
which in effect ended up creating a bigger problem, which created a permanent disability.
Right.
My whole respiratory system collapsed. My wife had to revive me. But anyway, I will get to that.
Okay.
When I was in Britain, the doctors there requested, and a South African flew me over secretly. He walked into my home. I was then paralyzed from neck down
Okay.
because of the drugs. And he secretly flew me over
Okay.
in a wheelchair and everything.
Okay.
The doctors in Britain then said to me, you must have a treating doctor in Ireland.
Mhm.
So before we can operate, this was on the Wednesday, right? On the Thursday, they were going to do an emergency operation to my neck and lower back. And they said, we need to make contact with your doctors in Ireland before we do so. He then came back into my room and he said, Kevin, we have been instructed by the doctor in Ireland not to touch you, that you are our property, you belong to us, and we are not to do anything to send you home back to Ireland.
As in you are under their care in Ireland.
Yes.
Rather than, okay, right.
His specific words were, you are the property of us, all right, which is Ireland.
Can I ask,
Yes.
at any point within this process, because it is ongoing for a long time, have you
Yes.
sought legal advice around all of this?
I have.
Okay.
I've been to 5 different solicitors
Okay.
who were bribed, paid off by the government. They were paid off.
I mean, sorry, but the
One-
prescriptions we found out, actually a solicitor got into it and found out that the prescriptions were being frauded. They changed the prescription
As well.
after the
Yes.
fact. And Kevin was on Oxycontin and the morphine medication and all that for about three and a half years.
Yes.
And when I said to this Dr. Declan O'Keefe, I don't understand you saying it's a muscle injury. That's what he kept saying for all these years. I said to him, if that is the case, why is he not okay by now? And on top of that, why is he on such a high dosage of medication and morphine? And this was the doctor's reaction. He says to me, well, in that case, I'll put him over onto methadone, and if you don't like that, you can tell me to fuck off, doctor. And he did that. And he sat like that and he looked at me, and I could not believe, I don't even speak like that to people. I couldn't believe that we've been trusting this man for so long. We had to go along with the methadone because he could hardly move. He went from walking slowly in pain, agonizing pain, to eventually having to use crutches. And then that became so bad that he needed a wheelchair. And this doctor just kept on with the medication, kept having Kevin come back for checkups. Never resolved anything, never really helped Kevin. So, yeah, like we were saying, the solicitor found out about the fraud that was being committed on the prescriptions.
And so, I suppose you mentioned you've been to 5 solicitors. Along, which number was that? Which solicitor? 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5?
Was it?
That was about the 4th
Third or
solicitor.
fourth one.
Okay. And I suppose what was the outcome of his efforts on your behalf?
Well, every time we seem
solicitor-
to get somewhere.
The
Sorry.
solicitor told me herself, she said, I've taken this to the advocacy. The advocacy say we can't do anything. We can't go with that, which means we cannot present that case to them because it fell under human trafficking, it fell under torture, extortion, bribery and corruption. And they said, no, we can't go, you're not allowed to mention those. And the advocacy says, no, we must go for, we can only do doctor negligence. And I made an open statement. I said then, this is not a negligence case. This is intentional because I was in Britain and 3.5 years later, I had to come back to Ireland. They flew me back to Ireland where I had to suffer for another 3.5 years and then died from paralysis and respiratory collapse. Left me half blind, deaf, no short-term memory, neuropathic pain right throughout my body. Every single day, and this is what I explained to the United Nations, every single day is a struggle just to survive because no human being has ever been recorded coming back from an OxyContin death. And that's a fact. Not one human being across this world has come back from a respiratory collapse on OxyContin. Now, the fact that the doctor interfered with doctors in Britain is a violation of my own human rights to save my life. And that was my intention. As a professional, I was brought here for a 10-year contract. All of this has been submitted to the ministers. I submitted even the contract. They said, you need to show us this contract. And I submitted to them the document, the actual document that said Kevin has been awarded a 10-year contract in Ireland. Now,
I'm going to pause you here.
Yes.
Okay. Because, you know, I suppose the more I'm listening to you around all of this, okay, the more I'm sitting here going, I can't touch this, and it's not out of a will or it's not out of a rejection or anything like that. It's out of a competency issue and a capacity issue. I do not have the competency to deal
of
with
this
the case
level.
that, yeah,
Correct.
Okay, this
Correct.
is not my area at all. Okay?
Correct.
I am a representative advocate for people with disabilities. But when I say people with disabilities, I'm referring to people with intellectual disabilities, autism, mental health issues, who couldn't in any way explain to me what their issue is in the first place. Okay?
Correct.
My job is about sort of sitting with people and as a witness and an observer to the kind of lives that they have, helping them to say to people, I have a problem here. Yeah.
Correct.
It's nothing to do with the law. Okay?
Okay.
In cases like yours, I'd be looking to reach out to solicitors and ask, look, I've got this inquiry, is this something that you can take on? The difficulty I have on your part is you've been to 5 different solicitors, and my manager will tell me very clearly, you can't touch this, because if this has been rejected by 5 different solicitors or they haven't been able to progress this, there's no value we could add to this. It's not
Okay.
something I have the competency
All right.
to do.
Now,
I'd love to be able to help.
yeah, sure.
you
But what we need now
Yeah.
is I've been to the United Nations.
Okay.
We have been granted assistance from the United Nations.
Okay. That's amazing.
And they have, we've got personal emails that are going backwards and forwards to the United Nations.
Okay.
Now, this is an international criminal case.
Right.
It needs to be addressed, and it needs to be, we've been, from the word go, like I said, when I've been to Minister of Trade and Enterprise, now we've spent 16 years going around.
Sorry, is there anyone here that can give us, that you would recommend here that could give us advice regarding this? Maybe a colleague or someone?
Yeah, within our service, in the Citizens Information Service, there's nobody here within these offices who could give that advice,
Yes.
the kind of advice that you need.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, and within, really, what I'm hearing from you is that you are basically looking again for legal representation to support you to take this
Correct.
case.
I have requested, and again, coming back to the United Nations, coming back to my South African rights. Now, this is a criminal case not only against South African Kevin Stewien, Kathleen Stewien. This is South Africa, the government of South Africa, the peoples of South Africa. Because when I was brought here from the Irish government, they brought me here. And now they've transgressed 10 years, now 16 years. So that is in itself an international crime. The other thing is, when I came here, I came with my own support system. I had my own medical, I had my own pensions,
Okay.
my own business. And so I came here as a businessman, as a professional. Now, my pensions, I only had 10 years left on my pensions, which is the exact time period I was allotted in Ireland to be here as a contractor, professional contractor. Now, the shortfall, because of what the HSE have done, the HSE have tortured me, tried to murder me, tried to kill me. Because of the HSE conduct, they have broken the term period of my pensions. So at the end of that period, and this is what I explained to the United Nations and to my government, at the end of that period, there is a taxable amount. Now, because they destroyed that, there's a shortfall in the taxes, which is all the peoples of South Africa. The taxes that the revenue, SARS South Africa, were going to get out of my having worked and contracted out, now has been destroyed. So the interference of the Irish government, and this is what I explained to the ministers, the interference of the Irish government is that they've stolen people's money from South Africa
Right.
as a shortfall in taxes. They've interfered with all of the peoples of South Africa. So that's why I have reiterated to the United Nations that I might be only Kevin and Carlin and my family. Now I've been withheld from my son for 16 years. I haven't seen my family for 16 years. My wife tried to get back to South Africa. Her mum was dying of cancer, and we appealed to the social services for assistance to get her back to go and see her family. And the social services themselves got involved in this crime of prohibiting her from going back to South Africa to see her own mother die. Stopped her because I'm a disabled person and on disability, and that in itself is a breaking of human rights laws and everything, international laws, to stop my wife from going to see her own mother pass away. So this is only one incident.
And can I ask, and I appreciate this is very upsetting, Caroline.
So
how did they actively do that? How did they stop?
well,
Number one,
we
shouldn't-
made
we shouldn't have
application.
been here, Kevin. No, if your contract was done, I would have
Yes.
been home when this all occurred.
Correct.
I would not have had to sit down and live with this.
They actively stopped it by the fact that we applied for assistance for a flight to get her back. We were requested by social services in writing. They requested, we need to know the doctor. They gave them the doctor's numbers, doctor's address, everything, because they said we will assist you in this matter, but we need to clarify and make sure this is a special needs assist.
Okay.
So we submitted all the documentation, the doctor's reports, that her mother was actually on her deathbed. And then at the end they sent us, did they send us a letter or a note or something that they said, this claim has been rejected. Now, merely on humanitarian grounds, according to EU law, that is transgressing and breaking EU law, because there is no way that this is all entrapment law that they're using. And entrapment law is, I take everything from you, give you nothing, so you can't move anywhere. Now, the legal assistance is the same thing. I've been and I've submitted everything to the solicitors themselves.
Right.
And then they come back and say, we've been instructed by the government that we can't put in all of this. Now, according to law and international law, I'm a South African.
Sure.
I've been rejected all Irish rights, all Irish constitutional rights, all Irish human rights, both locally and now internationally. And that's why we went to the United Nations, because we are saying this is between two states.
Okay. And I suppose on that point, you mentioned that you have the support of the United Nations to progress this.
Correct.
What do you mean by that? As in, they are willing to look at this case, or?
Yes.
Well, they're busy going. The last I heard, it's going directly to the court,
Okay.
in the United Nations court.
Okay.
They're trying to.
And who has communicated that to you, that it's going directly to court?
A United Nations member themselves,
Right.
a representative from the United Nations. That's why they
Right.
gave me. They submitted me the reference. They've submitted me all the documents
Okay.
involving this. Now, what I have the legal right to, when I arrived in this country, is to legal assistance.
Right.
and I was then a healthy human being
Okay.
in my full mind. Now, when I notified the government in 2004, and I notified them and I said, I need emergency management on this to get back to my country. I need somebody, because now you must understand, I'm paralyzed. I need somebody to communicate with the embassy and get in touch with my embassy. It took them 7 years and they didn't even get in touch with my embassy. My embassy only began to become aware of this in 2000 and after 2010, that my embassy became aware of this.
Okay.
Then I appealed to my embassy and to my government, and I submitted attempted murder charges laid at the Gardaí station, Ashbourne. I sent all that documentation through to the government of South Africa.
Okay. And okay, so your embassy became aware in 2010.
Yes.
Okay. And so are they actively supporting you around this?
They issued me with a human trafficking violation number 5753612.
Right.
All right. So what they said is we cannot get involved in this situation because the crime was committed in Ireland.
Okay.
It has to be sorted out here in Ireland.
Okay. But as I understand it, you are looking for an expert in human rights law, international human rights law, to support you around this. Okay.
Yes.
The solicitors that you've previously gone to, you know, have they been generic solicitors, sort of in the community? Who, like, what's
Okay.
who have you been through?
Okay. I went to Human Rights Commissioner himself
Okay.
of Ireland.
Yeah.
They, in 2010, this is what I've highlighted to the United Nations. In 2010, the Human Rights Commissioner assured me that I would have my money returned to me that I spent saving my life, protecting my family, which was the 350,000, which they are fully aware of in 2010. Human rights.
Sorry, I'll pause you there. Sorry, Caroline. You were
Yes.
saying.
The money came from where the accident happened, the court case, and he used that money. He went to South Africa to seek medical advice, and he contacted Australian doctors, doctors in India, and they all said that he had a serious problem and he needed an operation. But the doctors here, when we said that to him, he said those doctors don't know what they're talking about. So Kevin eventually ended up going to India, and he got the back operation and he got the neck operation, but the medication still left him with the nerve damage. He still has pain in his hands and his feet, soles of his feet, and his memory. You know, if I would get by the lift and you kind of know we have to go right, and you'd say it to him before you get to the lift, but once you get into the lift you'll still want to go left. So small, short little things like that you do tend to have trouble with.
Okay.
But what they said is that Kevin can get the money back they had to spend, which was the money from the case. But it's nothing happened yet so far.
Okay, so I suppose the Irish Human Rights Commissioner has said that you are entitled to
That's
a
correct.
reimbursement of that money.
Yes.
Okay. And so was that in an official ruling?
Was that
I don't know if it was an official, but he gave me all the documentation, said and letters stating that.
Okay.
Yes, and then he still stated, because he was communicating with obviously with the advocacy unit or whatever it was, and this has been to the advocacy unit themselves.
You referenced the advocacy unit a number of times in your emails, and again this morning.
Correct.
Is this an advocacy unit within the HSE you are
It's the
referring to?
HSE advocacy unit themselves.
Right.
Now the HSE, we've got the documentation from the ministers, because this has been highlighted over the years.
Right.
We've got the documentation from the ministers themselves,
Right.
acknowledging my letters,
Yeah.
and then saying to me that it was at the advocacy unit,
Okay.
the HSE advocacy unit themselves.
And is that I suppose, the confusion in terms of contacting our service around this, or were you aware that we're not that same service? Because we're not. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
Hey, everything happens for a reason. You might have come on the scene for some reason.
I know that there is a difference between the advocacy unit that you're representing and the HSE advocacy unit themselves.
Yeah.
Now,
I suppose let's be really clear around that. Okay, the HSE advocacy unit that you're referring to is essentially the legal department within the HSE.
Correct.
Okay, so it's their solicitors, their barristers.
Correct.
And actually, they, as I understand it, and it's not an area I'm very competent in, but as I understand it, there's very few that are directly employed by the HSE. The HSE, I suppose, contract some of the very large law firms here to take cases to courts on their behalf.
Okay.
Okay. So their advocacy unit is the people who manages those contracts.
Okay.
Okay. So that's advocacy in a legal sense.
Yes.
I am not a legal advocate. That's why I am sitting here with you today saying I have no competency in this area. Okay. Human rights laws at that level within the UN. Okay. That is not an area I deal with at all.
Yes.
And I know nothing about it, and everything you're saying to me this morning, I'm trying to let wash over me and understand.
Yes.
Okay, but I can't be your advocate around this stuff because you know your situation far better than I ever will. Okay,
Yes.
and my job is to stand up and say, this is this
I
person's
can
situation.
represent this man. Yes.
I can't do that in your case. Okay, so we need to be really clear around that. Okay.
All right.
As I'm listening to you, I am scratching my head, going, okay. Are there any, I suppose, law firms that, if your situation was different and if, I suppose, you had no understanding of your situation but you were in this mess and I just got a huge case filed around it, I'd be going, are there any law firms I could reach out to? My difficulty is you've already reached out to 5, right? And because of that piece, my manager will say, look, this has been explored and explored and explored, and we're not going to add any value to that. Yeah. I would wonder, and again, it's only, all I have in my head really are questions, like the Human Rights Commissioner of Ireland, in them saying you are entitled to this, they're the kind of people I'd be sort of saying, well, can you recommend a barrister or a solicitor who has an expertise in this area that we can approach, who might have some sympathy around this piece? Your embassy, I suppose the diplomats there, can you recommend anybody who, whether that's in Ireland or South Africa, given that this is an international case, that you could direct us towards who would have an expertise in that area? Do you know? In terms of I suppose the services, in terms of if you're talking about disability rights, the only service I can think of off the top of my head is the, I suppose, the university in Galway have a disability rights section there, and they have contacts with a lot of experts, and they're the ones that are sort of doing the stuff at the leading edge in this country around disability rights and taking things to court on behalf of people. They might be people that'd be worth linking in with around this and saying, look, could they recommend anybody? I don't know anybody with that sort of competency capacity because it's not the area we work in.
So in actual fact, it is for me to go straight to the criminal court and self-advocate.
I would say I'm not. I suppose directing that. What I'm saying is,
reach out and ask the question. Do you know someone that can help?
Figure in South Africa.
Thing is, can I say sorry? You were saying about already had 5 solicitors. It wasn't by choice. It's just because every time it seems like someone is stopping it from going any further. Do you know what I mean?
That's the bribery, Colleen.
Okay.
That's what I mentioned
Right.
to the United Nations.
I suppose I can't comment on that.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Your documentation. Okay?
Yeah.
But what I would say within that is, we have worked with lots of solicitors over the years around issues, and often what we find is that solicitors are bad at getting the message across to somebody around, look, we can't take this case and these are the reasons why. And that being made really concrete and really clear for people. Okay. What I heard from what you were saying earlier, it was one thing, was that a solicitor was saying to you, and I can't remember which one of those solicitors it was, but she was saying, look, we can't take on all these issues, but we can take it as a medical negligence case, and you rejected that. Okay, as you're saying, no, it's bigger than that.
No.
No,
Okay.
not that problem.
the solicitor was instructed, the solicitor herself was instructed
Yeah.
by the advocacy that she could not go under those terms and conditions.
Okay.
That they were not going. That I could not mention the torture. I could not mention the drugs. I could not mention all of these things.
Okay. Okay, I have a very rudimental knowledge of the law, but my understanding is, so the advocacy unit, as, you know, essentially that's an argument that they're making. You know, if a solicitor was truly, I suppose, had the competency and capacity to represent you effectively, they'd say, well, that's your argument, but we're going to bring this to court because we believe,
Yes.
you know, that this is a thing. So that's, you know, one side can't instruct the other. Only a judge can instruct
Yes.
the other side, you know. So, you know, in terms of that solicitor, and again, I can't comment because I don't have all of the documentation.
Yes.
You know, I would imagine they were sort of saying, look, this again isn't something that we
Yes.
can take on. But so it was expertise at that level is where you're
Correct.
trying to
You
figure
saying
out.
she was just taking what she could handle at
Yes.
the time.
Exactly.
You see, what we need now is, as I said, to
He's given you information to use it.
yes,
That's the reason he came in.
yeah. What I need immediately, and that is again requesting from 2004, is that the government allocate me a solicitor, because that is the amount of bribery and corruption.
The difficulty I
is-
see with that, Kevin, sorry to cut across you, but the difficulty I see with that is, you know, in terms of, I suppose, requesting the government to allocate you a solicitor for a case that you're taking against the government.
Yeah.
Yes,
That doesn't make
I
sense.
understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that.
You need an independent, someone that is not scared of the government. Will take them on.
Yes,
Yeah.
I
So-
understand that.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying, at the end of the day, it is a matter of going to the criminal court and declaring self-advocate
Getting
and opening a case. Is that
No, I wouldn't advise that, to be honest.
Why?
Well,
I just said to you, Kevin, go to the Galway University and ask questions.
so, Lovey? I got to get you home now.
I understand, but-
Her health, and this is again, I'm going to send off to the United Nations. She's in jeopardy of her health.
okay. Can I, before we get into that piece, okay, can I ask, as things currently stand, you mentioned, okay, you're on a daily basis, you're suffering pain in relation to this, and there has been issues around nerve damage, and there's been issues
Correct.
around memory. I suppose, have you a diagnosis around any of that, and what is it?
They pulled all the doctors away.
Mm-hmm.
I've requested specialists. They refuse. All specialists.
Who's they? Sorry.
Well, the socials, HSE. I've requested in writing for medical assistance. They've rejected. They've removed my medical cards, my rental. They have removed my gas. They've removed my electricity. So they have pulled everything away, and they are just leaving us trying to as garbage. And as I said, we've written to Minister Regina Doherty, and I handed her documents to get my rental back that they just took away. And then we were instructed to get notifications from South Africa. We don't own property, we don't own this, we need bank accounts in South Africa, and we had to, there was a pile of I think it was 23 pieces of paper that I went and hand delivered to Regina Doherty herself. And then we were told they didn't receive it. Now, and then they wanted me to go do that whole thing again. And I said,
You already done
that's
a few
stalling.
times then.
That's
Yeah.
stalling. And then I said, the other thing is, when we actually were in Tyrrellstown at the time, and we moved to
At Toth, because
At
our
Toth.
oldest one was getting bullied really badly. in school. So we kind of wanted to get out of the situation that, you know, what was going on. And we had friends who lived in, they still do, but lived in Rotov, and they were saying the schools are amazing. You know, the teachers don't tend to put up with that much, and, you know, just maybe consider moving to Rotov. So, really for our children's sake and for my eldest, he's 20 now, but he was, you know, bullied really badly. We would leave Durlston and go to Rotov, and so that's how we ended up going to Rotov, was to kind of get out of it, the whole situation of bullying.
Okay. And you're still in Rapport, are you?
Yeah.
You see, the other thing is with the Human Rights Island, I've been back to them, and then they said, oh, this is a new case, this is a new situation. It is an ongoing situation from 2004.
Okay.
And it's been just mounting up and getting bigger and bigger and getting worse and worse. And that's the point at which we are now. They, like I said, I've been thrown out of courts because of I declared out of jurisdiction. Now I've asked the court to establish a jurisdiction over me, and I said this is out of jurisdiction and it needs to go to the International Court. And the minute I've stated that in court, they've said strike out.
Yes, yeah.
Now
And were you representing yourself at that
Yes.
time? Okay. And
Yes.
when was that?
We went to Navan Court. It's been a Navan Court. It was last year. This has been ongoing for the last 3 years. I'd say I've been in court 4 times.
And see, we keep getting hit as well with, like, the TV license because of the disability. He used to get that. They took that as well without us realizing. So you'd get a court order for that. You'd get, you know, just gas, electricity. Everybody's just kind of at us, you know.
So, am I correct then in saying so? You've been in these courts, and it's not in relation to the cases you've been brought to court around.
I was brought to court. Now, under
Okay.
don't cry, sweetie.
Yeah,
Don't cry. Okay.
So when you say you've been to court 3 times, in each of those occasions, is that you having been brought to court
Yes.
rather than you taking your case to court?
No. I was taken to court by the government.
So, with regards to the TV license,
Yeah,
what else?
there must be a few.
DU license. What else was
I
there?
can't even think.
My vehicles.
Oh yeah.
We had a regards to my license.
Not license. You gotta stop saying license. It's
The road tax. Road tax.
Keeps calling it license.
Okay.
Now, one of my problems is
And can I, before you go
Yeah.
on, have each of those been thrown out?
yes, strike out. on
And
all of them.
actually, the last one we went to court another time, and I actually had to let Kevin go in by himself because there was no parking, and I had to kind of circle the parking area. But it was close enough for him just to go in, and he came out about 20 minutes later, and I was like, what is going on? And he said, I don't know, they said, my name is not on the list yet for
Yeah, they removed my
they
name.
removed his name off the
Yeah.
thing. And we knew for a fact because we double checked where it was at, what time it was for. And then when we got there, they said, no, your
Yeah.
name's not on the list to be seen, to be here today. So,
See, the one case that I tried to defer, and I sat in the court, and that's humiliating enough. But I declared out of jurisdiction. Now that's a legal statement that says this is not recognized as jurisdiction. And the judge had me sit in a bench for the remainder of the time till they took a break. And then while I was waiting,
He's seen the solicitor.
he said, would you mind explaining to the solicitor on the outside all of this? And I went outside and I said,
When you
he
say
said
all of this,
all of this,
right.
all right? And he said, then you can explain to this solicitor why why it's out of jurisdiction and everything. And I went outside and I explained to the solicitor, I said to him, this is an international criminal case of human trafficking, and it's an international situation, and this is out of jurisdiction because I've been refused all Irish law, all Irish constitutional law, and all human rights laws. That's why this is out of jurisdiction, and I needed to go to an international court where it's recognized by my government and my people. And he said, okay, I got that. We went back into the courtroom, and I was sitting waiting for the judge to call me in, and then he said, Kevin Stewien. I went and sat in the bench, and then without asking me anything, he said, jurisdiction accepted. Can you tell me what your client stated? Now, I wasn't his client.
Mm-hmm.
And the lawyer got up and said to the judge, Mr. Stewien has been explaining that this is human trafficking, that it's an international crime. And the judge just shut him up right there in front of everybody and said, that's rubbish, strike out. And that was exactly the operation that took place.
Right.
And when I got the letter back from I was fined, I think it was €500, and I got the letter back, and I wrote to the courts requesting that this be heard because of the fact that that was an illegal action on behalf of the judge, that this was illegal and irresponsible because I had declared out of jurisdiction, and that was not my lawyer. It was forced on me. And so then I got another letter months after that stating you must pay the fine of €300. Then it dropped down to €100, and I have never paid it. And then they said, we will take legal action against you on this action. And I have written back to them and said, please do that, because I need this to go to court. I need this as an international crime. Why is Ireland trying to hide this from all of the world? Why is Ireland trying to hide this, that they're holding an entire South African family as prisoners in Ireland?
I suppose, listening to all of that, Kevin, I would be concerned that I suppose you're talking to the wrong audience there around all of that. You know?
Correct.
And there, the judge, in terms of, I suppose, that out of jurisdiction piece, and again, I'm not a legal person, but in terms of you driving here and not paying road tax, he's concerned about that piece as somebody who is here, whether they're an Irish citizen or any other citizen of the state, or of whatever state, that if you have a car here and you have it on the road, you have a responsibility to pay the taxes.
Yeah.
That's all he's concerned about, and that's why he's saying the out of jurisdiction argument you're bringing is rubbish. To this. Now I appreciate what your counter argument to that, but all he can rule on is that issue that's in front of him.
But
I hear what you're saying around it, and I hear that you want, I suppose, to have a right of audience in the courts
Correct.
around all of this issue, but
Correct.
that's the wrong court to bring it.
Yes.
I think, and to a certain extent, to me, that's almost a bit of a side show to all of the other stuff. And I hear
Correct.
what you're saying, that's a piece that
correct. That needs to come into the criminal court.
But I suppose, taking back, you asked about the piece of should you represent yourself, at the UN around this whole piece. I would be certainly as I would see it, your first steps is to try and see, or try and find legal representation who has that expertise. You know, in terms of asking the government to provide that, they're the people you're taking the case against. They're very unlikely
Yeah.
to comply around that.
Correct.
In terms of, I suppose, going to the UN, if they've accepted it as a case, you know, and asking the question, you know, I
They
do not
can
know
provide.
where to turn here. You know, can you point me in a direction?
Correct.
You know, rather than saying, you know, I want you to provide me with or anything like that, but saying, look, I would love to take this case. I cannot take it by myself. I have been railroaded at every step.
Yes.
I need somebody with this expertise.
Yes.
Can you please point me in the direction of a number of solicitors who have presented at your court, and I will try and pitch my case to them.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that makes better sense. Yeah.
and with the same, I suppose, I would, you know, I mentioned Galway, the University of Galway, but like I say, that's only because I'm reaching, going, is there anyone that I know?
Yeah.
I don't know if
If
they
you
would
would
be the
like-
appropriate people, and I'd almost be fearful that you would, you know, reference me and sort of saying,
I
would
know
that
we
be safe?
wouldn't.
Because I don't know, you
Yeah.
know, I would, you know,
What we need at the, I mean, it's like I said, there's, it again coming back to all of this. There are solicitors that it's what I personally have witnessed when I have been to, and I was still sitting next to the guy and across from me, and these are legal people, and they were assisting me, and then from the other side of the bench I heard the man talking to somebody, and with reference to that, what I stated to you about the bribery.
Mhm.
And he said, he was talking, he said, yes, I understand, I'll do that. And that building that you were going to give us, did you arrange that? And this, I can only speak one-sided. And
Sorry,
obviously,
can I just clarify? You're saying he was on a conversation with somebody looking for clarity on something.
yes, while I was there in his office,
Okay.
he got a call.
Okay.
And he actually called me in and said to me, we'll help you.
Okay.
All right. Then when I was sitting waiting and having, and this, whoever phoned, and then he said, that building, and then he said, did you manage to sort something out? And obviously the guy said yes, and he said, oh, that's wonderful. He said, so we're getting it now rent-free.
Right.
And the conversation went on a little. I can't remember everything, and he put the phone down. And while we were chatting, I said to him, now, I need you to help me with this. And he said, Kevin, that, I'm sorry, I will not be able to help you with that anymore.
Right.
Now, whether it's got something to do with it doesn't matter. But the other solicitor that took on my case, within 3 months, his house is paid for, and then he says,
It's another
"Oh,
solicitor that was sent
we
back
can't
from
do that.
country.
Yeah, we can't do that." He says because I can't do that for you like that. We have to do it like
You
this.
had another solicitor and a few months.
Winifred, that was her name.
Winifred.
Winifred.
She's very good on the board.
Now this is going back to, I think, 2012. Winifred, from what solicitors was she? Rehoboam Solicitors, I think it was.
Okay. Yeah.
She said to me at that point, Kevin, we are ready to go to court now with this. And we are ready to go. She was going to represent me in this thing. And then the next minute, within 6 months, she came back to me and she said to me, I'm so sorry, Kevin. She said, I have to give you back the file on this case. I have to leave Ireland because all my work has suddenly been dried up, taken from me by the government. And that was her exact words. Taken from me, from the government. All the contracts have been stopped. I cannot afford my legal fees. And I know it's a solicitor to run his business. It's not a cheap thing to run a solicitor. And I think she mentioned something like 23,000 euro that she had to pay. And she said, I can't even afford to pay that now. And I have to go back to Nigeria. And that's how they manipulated and did it. So that's why I'm saying, at the end of the day,
and she put months of work into that as well.
she put
really
months
was
into
amazing.
work. I've been there, and as I said, she had all the documents ready for the court and said, we're ready to go to court. The last meeting we had was when she called me and she said, Kevin, we're ready to go to court now with this.
Right.
So that's why I'm saying, if I don't know why the newspapers try and hide. I've got no clarification on that. And that is already in suspicion of itself, that they're trying to hide all of this. It's just astounding. Now, that is why this is a big case. It's not a small little matter.
Okay. And yeah, and I suppose on that, again, I can't really comment around any of that stuff around the solicitors, but yeah, certainly, if you are facing the system, which, from everything that you've said, you need to look at, I suppose, somebody who isn't reliant on the system,
Correct.
And, I mean, even if we were a legal advocacy service, we are funded by the
You're reliant on, yes.
So, I mean, on that basis, though, I'd be sort of saying, oh, my manager would tell me we can't touch this.
Correct.
No, we're not a legal advocacy
And
service.
it's kind of where's your loyalty at, you want your job or not, kind of.
Yeah, that's how they do it, Lovey. Either you.
I suppose I don't want it to get lost. The key point I think that is important to get across around this piece is you need to look at, again, maybe to your embassy and sort of look for their direction as to somebody.
Yes.
Or to the courts, go back to the UN themselves and say, look, can you please direct us towards somebody who would,
Yes.
There are obviously, there are
They
lots
did
of
give me they did give me people to write to at the Geneva Convention for assistance in this.
Okay.
So they do that.
Yes. But in the meantime, Karina, I've got to get that I've got to. My next step is I have to go to the High Court myself to get the.
Where is the High Court, by the way?
Oh, that's outside in Phoenix Park. And make a case. Oh, it's okay.
And sorry, and that's in relation to
Human trafficking, torture, violation of my rights.
Oh, sorry. You're saying so you're going to do that anyway? Is that
Yes, I'm going to do that anyway. Okay. Because, and then I've got to, of course, see if the High Court reject it, and if they stop me, well, then I can just add that information to the United Nations.
Could I make one suggestion on that? I would do the other step first and seek advice
I've been
around
here
that whole
16
piece.
years.
No, I mean about going to the UN or going to your embassy, looking for a good, independent, solicitor or barrister who you could instruct around this, and ask them their advice around that piece first.
I have to reiterate, my problem is my wife's health, my kids, and I need that money back from my HSE now. It's overdue since 2010, and it's with incurring interest, and they are that needs to be handled immediately.
Okay.
So, we'll have to do that. If you know of somebody or can get us into contact with somebody, I would appreciate if you can just send us something on that.
Sure. And I think I've tried to be as open around that as I don't.
Thank you for seeing us today.
But I am I'm very open to,
Yeah.
you know, I suppose I'm meeting actually my manager later. I'm very open to sort of
Yes.
having this conversation with her and just sort of saying, look, this is my understanding of this whole situation. And
Yeah.
if she has anybody that she could
Yeah.
advise me of, and I'm more than happy to email you and forward you
Please.
on sort of people that you might
Yeah.
consider talking to.
Yeah.
But again, you know, it's not something that we could take on in terms of working with
Sure.
you with solicitors or directing it on, because
Yes.
you've got the capacity to do that whole
Yes.
piece yourself once you find the right solicitor.
That's right.
around this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, no, thank you
Thank
both.
you so
And
much for
I genuinely wish you the very best of luck.
Okay.
Might as well start carrying your case.
Yeah, I've got my own room now then.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, could you just wait up, please?
Yeah, actually, I'm kind of only a visitor here as well. As in, we borrow offices. I'll ask them.
We have some on the right hand side to the left hand side.
Bye, Bella. Thank you.
Yeah.
Jim, thank you, Aileen. Thank you. Bye. Thank you. Bye.